To our regular council meeting for Monday, April 15th, 2024. I'd like to call this meeting to order. We have all members of council present here tonight. We acknowledge that this land is the traditional territory of the Three Fires Confederacy of the First Nations, comprised of the Ojibwe, the Ottawa, and the Potawatomi peoples, and of the Huron-Wyandot peoples. We value the significant historical and contemporary contributions of local and regional First Nations and of all the original peoples of Turtle Island who have been living and working on the land from time immemorial. Please stand if you're able for our national anthem.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command.
Car ton bras s'est porté l'épée, il s'est porté la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits.
God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you. We will go to our clerk, Director Malin Drucolo, for a presentation or a report from the closed meeting held April 15th.
Mayor Bondi, through you, I can report that council met at 5:30 p.m. on April 15, 2024 to move into closed session pursuant to section 239(2)(f) and 239(3.1) of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended to discuss advice that was subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, and to receive education and training. And that is the extent of my report.
I would like to pass the mic over to Director Morissette for a little exciting announcement, and perhaps at the conclusion of this council meeting, council can get a group picture outside. We'll do that then. Director?
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. So for those that don't know, Tourism Windsor-Essex County does a series of awards throughout Windsor-Essex County on a yearly basis. So this year, the town of Essex had the Colchester Beach nominated as the best beach, and we were successful in winning that award, which is publicly voted. So I just want to thank council, administrative team, and our staff on the great work that and efforts that we've put towards this beach over the past 5 to 10 years. It's showing great success. So thanks for everybody on it.
Very exciting. Any conflicts of interest from members of council? Seeing none, I need a mover and a seconder that the published agenda for April 15th be adopted as presented. Moved by Councillor Mady, supported by Councillor Allard. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried unanimously. Adoption of the minutes for April 2nd, needing a mover and a seconder that the minutes be adopted as circulated. Deputy Mayor Shepley, Councillor Verbeek, all in favor? And that is carried. We have no public presentations tonight, no unfinished business. We will go to Director Chadwick from Development Services to talk about our climate change adaptation plan, our annual report. All right, the floor is yours, Director Chadwick.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good evening, Council. As you know, Council adopted a climate change adaptation plan called Climate Ready in February of 2021. This document is a strategy that lists various action items to be completed over a 5-year time span, specifically designed for the town of Essex on how we can better prepare ourselves and adapt to the impacts of a changing climate through things such as policy changes, process improvements, infrastructure developments, and communication. The report before you tonight is our third annual report since Climate Ready's inception and highlights the progress made between March of 2023 to March of 2024 on the various action items, including, but not limited to, investigating ways to utilize public spaces for naturalized areas and dedicated tree nurseries for future use, retrofitting municipal buildings with LED lighting, incorporating complete street policies into our official plan, expanding our geese management program to various parks, amending the zoning bylaw to require minimum landscaped areas in required front yards of residential properties to minimize increased pavement in urban centers, and other various initiatives as outlined in the annual report. The annual report has been uploaded to our website alongside the CCAP itself, as well as the first and second annual reports. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Questions for our director on her report? Seeing none, I need a motion to receive the Development Services report entitled Climate Change Adaptation Plan to be received for information. Mover and a seconder, Councillor Verbeek, supported by Councillor Mady. All in favor? And that is carried. Drainage, contracting services for drainage works roster list. This is our drainage report 2024-04, and we will go to our drainage superintendent. Miss Lindsay Dean is here.
There's actually two drainage rosters on the agenda tonight, so I'm going to speak to both of those at this time. So starting with the contractor roster, the first version of this roster was approved by council in 2022 and was set for a one-year term. The reason the one-year term was set was so that we could use it as a trial, like a pilot project, to see how it worked before we entered into a longer-term commitment. The roster that's before you tonight is for a 3-year term. In a similar fashion, the drainage engineering roster, this is the first version of this roster we're putting forth tonight, that has gone through a competitive process to get a list of drainage engineering firms to author reports under the Drainage Act. Similar to the contractor roster, we're moving forward with this on a one-year term basis to see how it works before we commit to a longer term. In the past, Root Engineering was appointed through a competitive process similar to this, and we're just looking to update that process at this time. And we spent some time looking at some research on what other municipalities are doing so we could model our roster after theirs. Drainage engineers are in short supply across the province, so we're looking to get a list of engineers to distribute work and that have a variety of different skill sets to best serve our residents.
Forward any questions from members of council. Councillor McGuire-Blaze, then Deputy Mayor Shepley.
Thank you through the chair. I like seeing this. I just have a question. What two companies were disqualified? It doesn't mention, it just says you disqualified two, but it doesn't say which two.
Mayor Bondi, the disqualified companies were for the contractor roster. I don't have those names readily available because we have not notified them yet that they have not disqualified. But they did not meet the minimum scoring of 75 to be able to qualify for the list.
Through the chair. So I just, not that it's you, I just find some for you, Doug, or Mr. Direct CEO Suite. Some discrepancies. Last week I was told that we always disclose who's disqualified or who didn't get the what tendered they didn't meet the qualifications. And then this week we're told, well, we can't tell you that information. We don't have it. I'd like there to be some consistency. Either you're going to tell us every time or you're not going to tell us.
Councilor McGuire-Blaze's question. What we can do is I'll have Director Drusevich work with our procurement staff, and then maybe can do a cheat sheet so we all know what the qualification are. Because even I know with RFPs versus RFQs, you know who bid, and RFPs you don't. So we can kind of do a summary sheet like that, including this. Yep.
Sorry, hang on. I have Councillor Hammond. Sorry, Deputy Mayor Shepley, then Councillor Hammond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mine will be a very quick one. Just so I think it's important that maybe the residents here too, if they're reading the report, when it says for the purchases in excess of 120,000 will need council's approval. Anything under it, that still goes through a procurement policy. It's not like you're just awarding jobs for 119,000 without, you still would go through a procurement policy, correct?
So the rosters are a little bit different. So the contractor roster is to establish a list of pre-qualified bidders. Those go out for requests for quote every job we have. Drainage engineering is a little bit different because the scope of the project is essentially started with you at council through an appointment, and then the on-site meeting really molds the scope of the project. So we can't get quotes from engineering firms in advance of the project because we don't know what's going to happen. So the intent of this roster for engineering services is to distribute work fairly through all the drainage engineering firms that qualify. So it doesn't mean we're going to spend that cost. We're going to spend the actual cost that and time that the engineer has spent on the project.
That would be for both, though. It's listed in both at 120,000. I'm just saying that it's just so that the public knows that we still go through the same procurement policy. It's not just being awarded in the back room. Do you understand what I say? It's because when you read it, it says that it has to come to council if it's over 120. But I'm just so that everybody is aware that we still would go through a procurement policy even if it's under. That was all. Thank you.
Yes, through you, Mayor. Superintendent, Dean, you mentioned earlier that we've already done this for a year.
The contractor roster, we have wrapped up a one-year term with that.
Can you explain to me how we benefited from running it for a course of a year?
Absolutely. Yeah, so essentially what we did was get a list of pre-qualified bidders, which were vetted, so that we weren't just getting any random person that would be able to bid online if we did a public tender. So it really helped make my job easier that we had contractors that we knew were qualified, had shown that they had the knowledge and experience to do this type of work, so that we knew when they bid on the project that they were capable of completing the work in the fashion that we needed.
For a motion that council authorize the acceptance of the pre-qualified bidders for the request for RFPQ contained in this report for a 3-year term. Moved by Councillor Hammond, supported by Deputy Mayor Shepley. Any questions? All in favor? That is carried. Looking for a mover and a seconder that the engineering services drainage works roster list be received and that council authorize the acceptance of the pre-qualified bidders for the RFPQ contained in this report. Moved by Councillor Allard, supported by Councillor Hammond. All in favor? Oh, sorry. Yep, go ahead.
Thank you through the chair. I just have a question. Why on this one do we award equally and we're not asking for the best price?
Previously mentioned, drainage engineering, it's not like when you put out a quote for something to be constructed that you know exactly what needs to be done. The scope of a drainage project when you're going through a report is really molded by the residents that are in that watershed. And, you know, we could start a project thinking we're going to do one culvert. We have an on-site meeting and then 3 other residents come forward and have other concerns. So the project isn't set that we have a set amount of engineering. It's really molded by the watershed and the residents that have needs that need to be addressed through the process.
Further questions? I think it would be hard to get the drainage engineers to buy into going on site, learning the scope of the work, knowing that they have like a 1/8 chance of getting it. So I'm trying to think of it out in my head. Any further questions? All in favor? And that is carried. Great work. Thank you. Drainage, results of request for retender for the Richmond Drain. Looking for a mover and a seconder that the operations report be received and that council award the request for tender for the Richmond Drain to South Shore Contracting of Essex County in the amount of $894,353.38, including $100,000 in contingency and non-refundable harmonized tax sale. Looking for a mover and a seconder on this. Moved by Deputy Mayor Shepley, supported by Councillor Hammond. Questions, comments from council? Councillor Hammond.
Yes, through you, Mayor, to the Drainage Department again. Can you just remind me what it is we're doing to the Shepley Drain and what section of it or and what the Richmond Drain, what section it is?
Through the chair. So this is a continuation of what we started working on in 2019 or 20, I believe. So we did a sheet pile wall in the bottom of the Richmond Drain along the 5th Concession Road on the south side of the road, kind of where the weird S-bend bridges in the middle. The banks have been failing severely over the last 5 or 10 years, which anybody drives that road see. So we're just continuing that along. We phased it out into 3 phases, but last year, because of fish timing when issues with procuring this project, we lumped these 2 phases together. So we'll be continuing that along to the bridge itself right at that intersection. We're doing the same thing, the sheet pile and Gabion stone.
I have is for things that like this that come to council. Can we just get a little map showing where like the Richmond drain is? So that, yeah, so that all of us up here kind of know, okay, this is Ward 2, Ward 3. That would be helpful. Any further questions? Councillor McGuire, please.
Thank you through the chair. I probably should have found this myself, but I'm going to ask you. And if you don't have the answer, then I can look for it later. It came in under budget. Do we know what the budget was for it?
So our budget for last year was $1 million and the budget for this year was 800,000. So we had 1.8 for this project. The estimated value for the project through the engineer was 1.6. So it came in significantly lower. However, the spread is fairly equal in representation from one to the other, but that was the budget we had. So we have a major cost savings on this project.
I want to say, since I have been on council, which has not been very long, it's been like a minute, everything is always over budget. So thank you for coming under budget. I really, really appreciate it.
Floor. So any further questions? Seeing none, all in favor? And that is carried. Moving on to the Capital Works and Asset Management 2024-05 surface treatment tender for 2024. And Mr. Macbeth is here if we have any questions. I will seek a mover and a seconder that the Capital Works and Asset Management report be received and that council award the surface treatment tender to Shepley Road Maintenance in the amount of $600,640, including non-harmonized sales tax. Needing a mover and seconder for this. Moved by Councilor Verbeek, supported by Deputy Mayor Shepley. Questions, comments? I'm wondering, Mr. Macbeth, if you could take us through the core projects that we're doing and then the provisional, if we can. I think that might be fun to hear. Please.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Let me see if I can pull up the list, but I know that the 2 roads that we are looking to do that were the primary roads of the tender were the 3rd concession. It was from County Road 20 up to about Roseboro Road, roughly. And then the 2nd road was the McCormick side road from County Road 20 up to the 3rd concession, the little piece in between, because there's a bit of a jaunt in between, and then from the 3rd concession to the 4th concession. Those were the 2 primary in the tender that they bid on, and then we had provisional works for asphalt supply, spray patching, and another provisional road, which was the 12th concession from County Road 15 to North Malden. That was a road that the operations department had reshouldered last year, so putting a single lift treatment will help extend the useful life. So.
Questions from members of council? I need a mover and a seconder, right? I needing a mover and a seconder. Oh, I already have them. Sorry. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Capital Works and Asset Management, Irwin Avenue reconstruction tender results. We will go to Mr. Macbeth to walk us through this a bit, please.
So through the timing of this tender, the town of Essex received excellent pricing from Shea Rock Construction Group on the reconstruction of Irwin Avenue from Arthur Avenue to the Gosfield Town line. That also includes Bryan Avenue from Talbot Street to Irwin and Wellington Avenue from Talbot Street to Irwin as well. So in anticipation of this approval, locates have already been ordered by the contractor, and through early discussions with Shea Rock, they are looking to start the construction around the week of May 13th, which hopefully will also be around the timing of when the completion of the Mason Arthur Gosfield intersection will be done. Based on the expected start date, the project should be completed somewhere between the end of October to mid-November of this year. And as part of these works, our report is also recommending that the engineering consulting firm TY Lin that designed this project be awarded for on-site inspection and contract administration services to oversee this reconstruction project.
Counselor Garen.
Through Mayor, a couple questions. Shayrock, that name sounds familiar. They've done work for the town in the past. Can you share any projects they've done with us? If they have?
Can't say I know of any in my time in the last 2 years that I've been here, but they have done other projects locally, reconstruction of road projects, I know in Windsor and several other municipalities. So they've been around for several years.
The other question was on the sidewalks for Irwin. What side of the road did they end up landing on?
Through you, Madam Mayor. So part of the consultation that we had done with council before during the tender, we had looking to flip them. So we are going to move it to the east side of Irwin Avenue, which is where the residents are. So not the town hall side of the road. And that will be continuous from Arthur Avenue all the way to Gosfield Town Line.
Shepley.
Thank you through the chair. Were there any other amendments other than the sidewalk that were made from the original plan, or is that the only amendment that we've made?
You, Madam Mayor. There's a couple of trees that will come out because we want to try and make the sidewalk straight. So we've talked with some of the residents in that time, and a couple of trees will be removed. There's another resident that had a concern of a tree that had a branch fall, so we're going to take that out. It'll also make it easier for us to install the storm sewers instead of digging through the root base. And then there are 4 residents on Irwin Avenue on the west side that do not currently have driveways. Administration has reached out to all of them. They have all indicated they would like to get a driveway approach. And so all of these changes are going to be sent to the consultant who's going to revise the drawings for construction. So these changes will be shown there, and we have enough in our budget for contingency to cover that. We anticipated during the tendering process that we would likely have this change, and so we put a little bit extra in those quantities to make sure that we would be covered.
Again, it's coming in under budget, so thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. So I'm just trying to figure out if I understand correctly. So we originally were going to go from Talbot to just back to Irwin. Now we're going all the way to Gosfield. Is that correct?
The limits have always been Arthur to Gosfield Town Line. The only thing that we had added in is originally when we were doing the engineering design, we had anticipated the streetscape project to continue farther. So we didn't want to leave a piece in between on Bryan Avenue because that wasn't in the original scope. But because of the fact that we are only matching in the curbs anyways on Talbot at that spot, we thought, well, we don't want to leave one little tiny piece. So we added that into the scope during the engineering design. And Wellington was always anticipated to be done as part of the original scope. So the limits have been the same pretty much from the beginning.
Really exciting. This is long awaited. Woohoo. We're going to open some champagne tonight. Okay, needing a mover and a seconder that the Capital Works Asset Management report be received and that council award the Irwin Avenue reconstruction to Shayrock Construction the amount of 3.4 million, including non-refundable harmonized sale tax, and that council approve the contract administration and on-site inspection, including drawing revisions and end of maintenance services to TYLN International Canada in the amount of 204,000. Needing a mover and a seconder on that. Councillor McGuire Blaze, supported by Councillor Garen. All in favor, and that is carried. Moving on, we have our 2024 hot mix asphalt program update. Since you're here anyways, I'm wondering if you could tell the public which roads are in the core and then provisional, please, Mr. Macbeth.
So through partnership with the County of Essex, we have asked them to tender our hot mix asphalt roads as we have had done in previous years to great success. And as part of this year's roads, we are looking to do a Cyrene and an asphalt overlay on Wright Road. And that is from County Road 50 up to Gore Road. And the other area that from the main part of the contract is in Harrow. So last year we had done Arthur Street South from County Road 20 up to Murdoch Street. So we're looking to continue to do Murdoch, Pearson, Taylor, and and Arthur itself, all the way in that area. So that large block, per the figure we showed at budget. We also had them, because we didn't know what the pricing would come in at, we had done a provisional item for Essex to do some work in Tully Meadows off of Oak Street and Meadow Drive or Meadow Lane. Those works are still going to be provisional. We have to see where the other tenders come in at with the Cyrene and the overlay for it. The County of Essex is doing 3 different tenders this year. They haven't all closed. So once we have an idea of where the budget is for Wright Road, and we see how much money you have remaining, we may do portions of that or the full amount, depending on how the pricing comes in, or it could be eliminated depending, because we still have to pay the county contracted material testing and a few other items like line painting and shouldering. So once we have a better idea of where the scope is, then we can provide an update to council of whether or not we'll include that part of that work. If not, then that'll be put forward on another year's budget.
That's Counselor Hammond.
Through you, Mayor. Mr. Macbeth, I see where the pavement's getting further west from Arthur Street. Where does that put Walnut Street on our list?
Madam Mayor. Walnut Street is currently being designed by T.Y. Lin. So when we had done Arthur Street, we had done a tender for both for engineering design. So it was determined that Irwin Avenue would go first, Walnut would go second. So they are currently designing Walnut currently. It will be put on for a proposal onto next year's budget for council to approve to do Walnut Street from County Road 20 to its southern limit, including the one side street that I can't remember the name of that comes off of Walnut.
Mayor, so provisional will be Tully Meadows. Just because there's some other streets in Ward 1 and other municipalities that are subdivision or streets that look like they need, I don't remember seeing that area. Not that it doesn't need, I believe it does, but I don't remember seeing that area on the scan as being a major problem. Is it the only main reason we're doing it is because we can partner with the county, because it's the county road it butts to? I'm just wondering, some of our taxpayers might just wonder why that particular subdivision road versus another subdivision road that looks similar.
Madam Mayor. So we have a road condition index done every few years, and looking at last year's, 2022's index, they had listed that road as in poor condition, right? And if you look at the surface, it is fairly broken up. Before it becomes too big of a problem where we start impacting the base asphalt underneath, it is one of those areas where our infrastructure, because of the age, it's about halfway through its life. So doing a mill and pave without having to do any underground infrastructure is a good use of our funds right now, where there are other areas in the town that do need it to have asphalt done, but they also need either water main or storm sewer improvements. And to do those, we need to have engineering design. So this is meant, hopefully, like the way that we're using the program is to try and delve into the areas that need repair, that don't need other type of services that need to be fixed, like a reconstruction project.
Okay, so for that, the Mayor, so we can do projects that are outside of roads that are abutting up to county roads and still partner with them.
Through the chair, yes, we can, as long as we know, like for example, Arthur Street and Harrow, we've already done that first section, but they're willing to kind of tender it. For us, we get, because of the large scale of the asphalt programs that the county has, we get better pricing. So they are willing to put it out there for us, and their contractors bid on it, and we get the benefit of their pricing. It does not have to be adjacent to the county road. Obviously, it makes it a little bit easier if we tie in with it, probably maybe get better pricing, but they have been willing to tender our projects for us.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. I'm just curious on how, so Wright Road right now is gonna be not done. We're gonna wait and see what the rest of the tender comes back in, but we're gonna go ahead and approve our provisional road in front of it. Is that what we're planning on doing right now?
Through you, Madam Mayor. So we are planning to move forward with Wright Road. It is one of our primary, but they've tendered just the Cyrene portion. The asphalt overlay that goes there has not been posted yet by the county, so I don't know what the final price is. So reason we're saying to award this now is the county is looking to award their tender. If we don't include it, then we can't get it done. So if the number, it's better to put it in now as a provisional item, and we have the ability to scale back or to remove that project at any time. So the reason we're asking in the report to authorize it is so if we have the money at the end of the day, we can do the work where we wouldn't have that option if we didn't include it at this time.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick question. I'm just curious on from Bryan Avenue East from Irwin to Gosfield, that section down in front of the school that's really bad. Would that be a road that we would be able to consider for like a shave and pave, or is there considerable underground work that needs to be done in order to do that? I'm just curious because it's in pretty dire shape as well as Irwin.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So Bryan Avenue from Irwin up to Gosfield Town Line. So in that area, the sewers in that area are in poor shape. We actually had a cave in that had to be fixed on one of those in 2022. So it is one of those projects that needs a full reconstruction and engineering design. The storm sewers likely need to be increased in size based off of the increased flow and level of service that we're trying to provide the residents.
There's something to add here.
Just a reminder for council, in the council's or the town strategic plan, we do have to have a road plan developed. Working with Director Gerard and his team and Manager Macbeth. That was scheduled to come in front of council in 2025, but I did talk with Director Gerard earlier this year, and the timeline has been moved up to fall of 2024. So some of these questions will be kind of addressed in that report at the end of this year.
Be helpful because we could all talk about all of our roads all night. It's great. So Mr. Macbeth, I was just on Wright Road. We did a cleanup and we cleaned up all the garbage. So hopefully it stays clean for a while. What do we say to residents who say, because they'll say this, Wright Road isn't that bad. You should be doing such and such a road. So why are we doing, if you could just publicly say, why are we doing Wright Road right now?
So once again, there's a couple of reasons for Wright Road. One, it is in a it's slightly above poor condition, but it is a major outlet for everyone in Colchester to get up to Harrow. And because of the large traffic volumes, it kind of warrants replacing that now before it gets worse. And then we have to have a more extended shutdown or higher expensive costs in repairing it.
I'm assuming the work's not gonna start on Wright Road right away. My concern being with the bridge being out in Colchester on Highway 50 and diverting traffic around Wright Road is probably gonna see a lot more traffic this summer than it normally would. I'm just wondering how that's gonna work out with the paving and everything, or is traffic gonna be able to go up and down there as normal?
Timing for the road is unknown at this time until the council from county awards the contract for that work. And that one is only at this time the Cyrene, which they're not awarding. It's just the mill and pave portion right now. But until it's awarded and then we get a kind of a timeline from that contractor of when they're doing that work, I really can't speak to the timing. We can always ask for them to kind of push that work back if potentially, right? But you have to remember also as well, they are doing the remaining or 50 down that stretch with the paved shoulder. So there is a lot of construction in that area. So we don't necessarily get to dictate schedule on the contractor. We can try and ask for that to work in with timing of the bridge work that is being done. But at this time, we just don't have any idea of when the Cyrene work will be awarded or when they're planning to start. But we can get that information this year.
For that question, Councillor Hammond, I'm of a different opinion. I don't think the county roads shut down. Like, I don't think they're long there. I think one lane's always open. I don't want to ask them for anything more than what they're doing because I don't want the cost to go up because I want the road to get done. And I also feel the culvert on Tom Wright Drain, we could be till December. Like, we really could. So I don't want to push it back because we don't know. So if anybody's looking for information on the Tom Wright Drain, please follow the County of Essex on their website and social media because that is not a Town of Essex project. And the Deputy Mayor and I are in constant contact with the county staff to get updates on that. Okay, any further questions on our roads that are right here? Needing a mover and a seconder that the Capital Works and Asset Management report be received for information. Deputy Mayor Shepley, Councillor Guerin, all in favor? And that is carried. Sidewalk patio policy operations report, and I'm not, Mr. Macbeth, okay.
to build off the existing sidewalk patio bylaw that was created in 2022 by the Legal and Legislative Services, Infrastructure Services through its operations department has brought forth this policy to ensure pedestrian and vehicular safety, as well as looking to create a standard look for our patios within our streetscapes and also to protect our town infrastructure. And this policy is for sidewalk patios that are only within the town's right of way and not for any patios on private property, just to make that clear. So with the near completion of both the Harrow and Essex streetscape projects, this will be the first year that this bylaw is really going to be used. And around the same time that that bylaw was created back in 2022, the Ontario Traffic Council created guidelines for patio creation within municipal right-of-ways. And that is what we're planning to use moving forward to protect our residents' safeties and ourselves from liability when sidewalk patios are being created. I think the biggest recommendation that we have within this policy is that to allow our operations division to be responsible for installing these patios on behalf of these businesses. And part of the reason for that is to meet the guidelines in the Ontario Traffic Manual, constructing these might become too burdensome for the local businesses to complete the work themselves. And the town wants to ensure that our newly installed infrastructure in our streetscape projects are protected. And we also want to make sure, as I mentioned before, that we have a consistent look of our patios that tie into our streetscape theme. The cost for these permits per our proposal is for patios requiring traffic control and the patios that don't to have different costs. The costs would be at the expense, the patios that have do not require traffic control, we're proposing $1,000 fee, and for ones that require traffic control because they take more work, a $2,000 fee. The cost for these patio materials, like the actual railings or that of construction of the patios, would be to the cost of the business owner, which is the same as before, and the cost of these permits is for the 6-month patio season that goes from May 1st up to the end of October. And the amounts that we're charging is only a partial cover of the actual amount of work that we need to have. We're not trying to make any money off of these patios. We are just trying to make sure that they are set up correctly, and that and I think that's pretty much all I can say without answering questions, which I'm sure that you'll have.
Comments from members of council? Council Garen.
Through the mayor, to admin. So just trying to backtrack here, all the patios, say on our Main Street in Essex Center here, have to go through the application process and we have to build those. No one can do makeshifts anymore, do their own.
Through this policy, that is what we're trying to eliminate. So we don't have people trying to either attach stuff into our own infrastructure, and then we don't get the 2x4 and ropes and stuff like that have been done previously on patio, new streetscape area.
Further to that, I looked through the designs, the various different designs. It looks like there is an ability in the permit to apply for parking spaces to be utilized. When we approved the streetscape in Essex Center with the bollards, the idea was that we'd be able to move bollards to take up parking spaces for these patios. Are these bollards set up for that now? And wasn't the intent of that streetscape, or if somebody wanted to do a patio out there, that would be sufficient for their space?
So the bollards are there actually to kind of keep the cars from entering into the area where pedestrians walk. The bollards are removable for the majority of the streetscape, but the requirements from the OTC manual require MASH tested crash resistant barriers for certain locations. So because we have a curb, we don't necessarily need to have like Jersey barriers or some of the other things, but we want to have something that still protects patio. So we looked at similar things that products that we would probably accept, which would be if you're familiar with the Winology's patio out in Kingsville, we've looked at like concrete planters that could be installed adjacent to the patio fencing just to provide some extra security, right? Because if a vehicle was to strike it, we want to make sure that they're not just going through the patios. Patios could be adjacent to the building. They could be in parking spaces. It really depends on the consultation that we'd be having with each building owner as to what type of patio, what size, and what we would allow in that space. We have to make sure that we're providing at least 1.8 meters or 6 feet free clearance space for pedestrians to get around the patio. So that's one of the other things that why we need to sit down with all the business owners that do apply. This is the same process even within the bylaw, right? Like we would still, even if this, the policy is not there, we still had this as a requirement before. So it's just, we are trying to kind of put this into infrastructure or operations hands to install, so people aren't constructing, a mishmash of different types of patios in our streetscape, and that they're not drilling into our new concrete or pavers or trying to remove our bollards or do other things in our streetscape area.
And so I think it's needed. I understand why we'd want to, for risk and all that. But I really think the costs associated with a business putting that kind of money in for seasonal patios a lot. I think it's really going to distract. I don't think we'll have to deal with it. Put it that way. We won't have any patios, in my personal opinion. The bollards, I want to go back to those. You said they can be removed, but my understanding is they're supposed to be able to be removed and then go up out to the outside of the parking perimeters to extend patio out that way. Say, I was under the assumption that when we had a parade, those bollards would move out and people can expand into the parking spaces and view the parade safely, or a person could do a tent sale in them parking spaces with those bollards being moved. Are the bollards being able to be moved, or are they not?
You, Madam Mayor, no, those bollards do not have another spot to go to, right? So they come in and they're attached through a threaded rod that is sitting in a concrete base that holds the bollard, and they thread into that, right? At the curb or there's no spot for that to be added into that. The bollards come with one pin, so it's like the anchor that comes with it, and that is in the concrete. Theoretically, you could go back and put in additional bollards, but that wasn't part of the scope of the engineering.
Was that not the original plan, though, that we were doing for I thought the bollards was that something we took out? And because I'm not aware of that, I thought they were supposed to be movable, back and forth.
Through you, Madam Mayor, since I've been here, which is about 2 years, I've never seen that on the drawings. Maybe that was in a preliminary thing before my time, but because this has been designed for about 3 or 4 years ago, but I've never seen that on the engineering drawing.
Director Gerard's not here tonight, but I think when we had to go back to do some revisions and do some cost cutting, that was one of the items that was revised.
I have Counselor Hammond, then Deputy Mayor Shepley, then Counselor McGuire, please.
Mayor, Mr. Macbeth, do we have any examples of what our patios might look like as far as construction materials and stuff like that? I see some, the only examples I can find are on page 65, and that just basically shows a type of barrier or something, but do we have something?
You, Madam Mayor. So when we were originally looking to see what the costing of these potential patios could be, we are looking mostly at railing, right? Black metal railing that could be anchored into the concrete, and it would be somewhere between the 4 to 6 foot long panel of railing that would be about 42 inches high, because that's the requirement for anybody who has an alcoholic beverage. If they're going to serve it in the patio area, it has to at least be 42 inches high. So that's roughly the height, somewhere in that range, from about 42 to 48 inches. We would sit down with each of the business owners to see, because they may want a custom size patio, not this fall in like a 6 foot spacing. So there are other options that we have been looking at, but that's kind of part of the consultation and what they want to buy, and they can propose things to us. It's not set, but we have to see what they're offering just to make sure it kind of fits in, and that it's will make things safe.
Madam Mayor, and through you, I've got a series of questions that I'm sure everybody does. So, again, you probably answered it, but we will be building the perimeter of the patio, and we'll be supplying material for that as well. I'm not sure I caught that part.
So the materials that they will be bought currently by the business owner, right? Like if they were, we just want to be the person doing the installation. And part of when you're looking at the cost, you have to remember they're probably hiring a contractor to do it. So that would be on us. Plus they'd have to pull a permit in order to work in our right of way. That's already on us too. So our permit costs as well, why it's slightly higher than some of the other municipalities. We're doing the work. And we're not that far off in some of the others. They range anywhere from 250 to almost 1,800, depending if you're taking out parking spaces. And we're not looking to charge for any parking use space. So as long as we can make it happen where you get that 6-foot walkway around. So, we're not really out to lunch on our pricing, and it takes liability away from the businesses to potentially have to pay things through their insurance if there's damage caused.
To follow up with that, now the section in front of a business out to the sidewalk, they'll still be able to, is that considered in the sidewalk policy, or is that still able to be used for them for the sidewalk sales and things of that nature?
I think I'm going to pass that on to Director Maladrucolo to see. I'm not 100% certain on our bylaws if there's anything that covers that.
I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and review the bylaw and come back to you on that one.
That one's kind of a big one for me because I know a lot of our businesses do tend to put things out on the sidewalk, especially in the summer when people are walking, they skid, it is good for them to be able to do that. I just would hate to see this policy stop them from being able to have those sidewalk sales. Further to that, I think for a restaurant, for example, to have a patio where they can have drinking and things like that, I don't think your price is out of line there. I think it's recoupable by the restaurateur. However, I think for, a business to have a series of sidewalk sales in the summer, it wouldn't be something that they would be, if they wanted to build out their sidewalk, it wouldn't be feasible for them. My other question would be, as for example, I'll use Mama's Place uptown. They have a very small footprint out in front of their location. Would they be able to extend beyond the perimeter of their location as long as they were on the sidewalk side to allow them a little more room? So I know during COVID, they were very limited in what they could have as far as the patio goes. So I just wondered, for a business like that, being that restrictive space that they were under before, it would be cost prohibitive for them. I just wondered if they're able to expand.
Madam Mayor, so I'll go to your first question as well, like kind of what you're talking about. So this is only for sidewalk patio, right? So people, I will let Director Maladrucolo look up the bylaws, but theoretically, we're not talking about sales, right? And setting things up on a temporary weekend, that's really not going to be covered under this policy. So I just wanted to state that. As for the other patio, the intention is for it still to be to the building property, because theoretically the neighboring property could have their own patio. So it does need to go into the width of the front of their building, is the space that they're entitled to, and that would kind of be the limits. And as long as you can get 6 feet of a walkway clear, that's how far out the patio can be, right? So to meet the guidelines that we have to follow.
Through the chair. So I'm going to start right here, and my notes have been added since you've been talking. Sidewalk sales are allowed, but in the objective, it says sidewalk patios and other pop-ups. What do you mean by pop-ups?
Mayor, I think that would be something that is like a one-off type of seating area, maybe on a night where they close down for the road, right? It would be like something that would be inspected. We wouldn't be obviously installing railings at that point because it would be like a one-night event, but before they do any type of setup, we'd want to see what they're proposing, depending on what it is. I don't think it refers to clothing racks and other things that from the businesses that are selling that type of thing. I don't think we're going to get involved in doing those when we're shutting down the streets, or if those are being done on weekends. It's more if you're going to be impacting pedestrian movements. And I think overall we can find a way having permit costs to those businesses.
Thank you, through the chair. So a pop-up, if it's a one night only, we close the street, and I'm going to use Mama's Place because it was already mentioned tonight. Mama's Place decides she's going to do a patio. We are going to charge her for the one night to $2,000.
No, sorry, through the chair, no, that is not really our intention for this. I'm just trying to answer your question. No, we would not be charging them that. And theoretically, if you're closing the road, the patio could just be in front of the business and probably even up to the back of curb because you were providing the roadway for them to walk in, right? It has to be just a clear path. So individual one night things we're not looking to try and control. It's pop-up things might be something that could be for, say, a month, and I want to put something out there for a month. And once again, depending on what it is, it may or may not require, it may not fall under the patio. This is mostly for patios. I know pop-up is mentioned in there. It's because I would say that those could be something that is more of a long-term than a one night or a 2-day type of thing. If we looking for amendments, obviously this policy, we can make them to be more specific, but that is not the intention of the policy.
I would like to have amendments done to this policy. I'm not ready to adopt it as it's written. I think I have a lot of suggestions. Pop-ups is one of them. I don't think that should be written in here. The way that it's written, it sounds like if Mama's Place we close the street for a car show, Mama's Place wants to put out 3 tables, which is all she can put out, just so you know. In front of her space, she's allowed 3 tables seating 2 people. We're going to charge her $333 a month for an extra 3 tables with 2 people at it. She's open 4 nights a week. I don't think the price is fair at all. It might be fair to maybe when the Grand was open and they had a large patio and it was busy all night long. But for I'm not sure what the Harrow makeup is in the town, the restaurants that might want to utilize this. But I know in downtown Essex, I've spoken to a few of the restaurant owners. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to speak to them all. But when referencing this, they are all unison. They will not have a patio. We will not have the what do you call it here? The lively urban environment that you're looking to have. You are not creating that with the cost that you have here. So I'm against the cost. I did look into both Kingsville and Leamington. They do have a high permit fee, but at the end of the season, they get their permit fee back. So I think that we need to look into the other municipalities and see what they're actually doing. I'd like a report to say maybe the information I received was wrong. But I would like to see a report on what the other municipalities are doing. I also spoke to Lakeshore and they were under the assumption that there was absolutely no fee. But again, I had a day and a half to talk to them. So that could be different. You said that the bollards don't move. Then what can you give me the definition of our flex street, which we just paid millions of dollars for?
Madam Mayor, so the bollards do come out, but they don't move to the back of the curb. So the flex street is still there to be able to use it because it is a one level with the patio, with the parking and the sidewalk to be able to utilize that entire space, depending on how either a patio or an event for a closed street. It gives the ability to have one level where it's for access, right? Where we don't have that step down with potential tripping hazards and we have only the mountable curb to the roadway.
So we paid millions of dollars so we can take the bollards out, but we can't put them at the road. We now have to pay for guards to go at the road to prevent cars from going onto the sidewalk. Is that correct?
Chair. So the bollards themselves will help restrict movement for cars to hit them, but ultimately the bollards are not rated or not MASH tested to be to take a force of a car that's traveling 50 kilometers an hour. So it was like I mentioned before, right? The design that I knew of from when I've been here has not had those. It may have been there and taken out, as CEO Sweet said, but those bollards, even if they were moved, would not be enough to protect residents having patios. They're not meant for that intended purpose. They are there to kind of just delineate and to help protect people moving at a slow rate of traffic, which along the travel lane of a roadway is not necessarily guaranteed.
Here, you mentioned that businesses are going to be allowed to anchor their railings into the concrete. So we're now I was told by business that we told them they were not allowed to anchor anything into our concrete. Are we now allowing them to drill holes into the freshly concrete and anchor their railings?
Per our recommendation, if it is going to be done by our operations, where the risk of our infrastructure is done by ourselves, and to ensure at the end, when the poles are removed, they can be properly plugged and to protect our infrastructure, then yes, we would allow it to be done if it's being done by our operations department. Otherwise, no, we would not be allowing businesses to, if this isn't passed and we're sticking with just the bylaw that we already have in place, then we would not be allowing them go into structure.
I agree that there has to be a policy. We have to have something that says this is allowed, this isn't allowed. And I agree that our staff should have a final say if it's set up accordingly. I don't think that we need our staff to set it up. I think that it needs to be approved like anything else. The design needs to be approved. They apply for their permit. They set up their fencing. Somebody comes out and takes a look at it and says, yes, that's done right, or no, that's not done right at all. I don't know why our town staff, we're already stretched thin as it is. Why is our town staff setting up someone else's patio? That doesn't make any sense to me. It should be a bylaw. They should have to pay a permit. $2,000, I think, is a really steep cost, especially if they're gonna also have to pay for barricades. So I honestly was okay with 2,000. If we're moving the barricades, they don't have to pay for extra. But now we're saying, one, we have to move the barricades, and now you have to pay for barricades. I don't think that is feasible unless we're going to supply the barricades ourselves. Then if that's the case, we're going to supply barricades. Sure, $2,000 makes sense. But we're going to ask the 4 in Essex Center, we're talking about 4 restaurants that I can think of that might use a patio. So 4 restaurants, we're going to say, okay, you now need to pay $2,000 to get an extra 3 tables for 6 months. And you have to pay for all the materials, and you have to pay for the barricades, and you have to pay to get the barricades there. Coordinate with our town so our town staff can take them off your trailer and put them in place for you. I don't like it. I'm gonna vote no on this. I would like administration to come back with what are the other municipalities doing? How are they doing theirs? What are the fees? I would like to see what other people are doing, because I don't think any of our businesses are going to utilize this, and it's a waste of my breath right now, because if we keep with this, we will never use it, ever.
Thank you, Councilor McGuire Blaze. I have a few questions and stuff myself, but I think I'm leaning towards seeing if there's appetite at council to postpone, a motion to postpone till May 6th or potentially May 21st if our staff need more time. So we'll see what our CEO has to say. One thing I would like to see is Councilor McGuire Blaze, since you're on the BIA, I'm wondering if you can bring this to their attention tomorrow night. I plan on attending the BIA meeting as well tomorrow night. I did look through the BIA minutes. I have 2023 here. I do remember seeing something in 2021 where potentially the BIA could help offset fees. They talked about it in the minutes. I have to go back. It might be in 2021. I have 23 here, so that might be something. But I think at this point, I think maybe a motion to postpone to May 6th or May 21st. CEO Sweet, how long do you think we need? Because I think there's still some questions here.
We'll try and get this back as soon as possible, but I'd like to recommend the worst case, the May 21st meeting. We'll try earlier. I'm not sure in terms of time we get the information and some of the questions that Councilor McGuire Blaze raised. So no later than May 21st will be our goal, sooner if we can.
Now I'm seeking a motion to postpone this report to May 6th or May 21st, pending administration's deadlines. We can speak to the motion. I just want to get the motion on the table and then we'll speak to it. Councilor Verbeek supports, needing a seconder. Councilor McGuire Blaze speaking to the motion now. Councilor Guerin. Motion. Councilor Verbeek.
just one. I know, thank you, Mr. Macbeth. You've done really well tonight with the roads. I know I'm backing it up, but thank you for being so clear and precise with your answers and, presenting these reports. I just wanted to I can hear that there's a little concern about, the way this has been proposed. I didn't have a lot of issues with it. And I like the suggestion that our staff take the reins with the construction, because as pointed out, these main streets have just cost our taxpayers a ton of money. And I don't want to see the Wild West out there with people drilling holes in it to set up their patios. So I liked the suggestion of our staff doing the work.
Counselor Hammond.
Just wondering if it's possible to get a range on costs, what the barricades would be, what they, I don't know if that's possible when this comes back. Because those barricades would then become the property of the restaurant that purchased them. They'd be able to use them over and over again. I'm assuming they would be well built since they'd be able to take the impact of a car at 50 kilometers an hour. So it's not something that should be falling apart year over year. Just if we could have an idea what that cost is, because will the cost to move them would be part of the town setup, I'm assuming, or would they have to store them as well?
So we would remove them from the right of way because we're doing the works. But yes, ultimately we have it right now because unless we can come up with some agreement in place with the business that they would go and store their own equipment like they would with the fencing. And the part of the reason for that is it's theirs, right? And so then you're talking about the liability of theft or something like that, depending on where we could store them. I did also want to reiterate, as one of the comments that came in, there's talk about, the barricades have to be there, they have to buy all this stuff. Even if this policy is not passed, that is still a requirement for the businesses going in there. I just want to make sure that is clear, that it's not something that not that it can't be deferred or anything like that, but I just want to make sure that's clear, that cost does need to be covered by the business. I will add that the town is currently seeking a grant to try and get some funding to help pay for some of these patios, but we may not have an answer on that for several months. And it's one of the reasons we brought this forward is because of the fact that we are coming up to patio season on May 1st. So, if we end up winning a grant where we can buy either patio railings, the MASH tested barriers, whatever other than that, and be the ones who are supplying it, obviously do so, and to make it easier for those businesses. And at that point, we would revise a policy at that time, but we're trying to have something in place to allow the patios to move forward, close to the beginning of the season. Just wanted to pass that along.
Would you be able to bring out like a proposed cost of the mesh system and the barricade, just a rough idea, so we have something, just a number to look at? I'm just wondering if that would be helpful to some of us, I think.
So when we have the final recommendations that council's wanting answers for, we can bring that in our report.
Counselor Hammond, then Counselor Guerin.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to add to what Deputy Mayor Shepley is asking for, and if maybe we could get in the next report some examples, especially since the two recent streetscapes are so different in the way they're built and stuff like that. Maybe we could get a couple of variables from what one restaurant or establishment in Harold might look as opposed to one in Essex, and how the different how the makeup is going to work in each scenario, if that's possible, with that cost analysis.
Yeah, Counselor Guerin, then Counselor Mady.
Yes, through the mayor. I think if you're going to be come back with a report, we have to think, what was the purpose of the streetscape? Why did we design the streetscape the way we wanted to design it? We didn't want to close our streets down. One of that was the biggest thing. We didn't want to keep closing our streets down. So we said, well, let's do a flex street. Then business can go out in that area. And what I'm looking at right now is, other than the few that might set up where you don't have the curb now and you don't have to worry about a step down to get to the, that's the only thing that we're really saving. We got so much pushback, not everybody, but we got a considerable amount of pushback from residents about the streetscape, spending all that money and what do you, and then you see it in there and I'm telling people, yeah, well, we'll be able to move bollards and business will be going through. We're making it so complex and difficult and expensive for the businesses that take advantage of the streetscape. They're never going to do it. I mean, I think it's more complicated now than it was prior to doing any streetscape to get a permit. It's definitely more money. I mean, we didn't take this much consideration into safety, several years ago. And I'm not saying I'm against the safety part of it, but I don't know what railings we're gonna buy. They're gonna stop a car. I know it's 50, that speed limit, but it's gonna stop any car going 30 or 70 recklessly through there from crashing into anything anyways and hurting somebody. So, I mean, I'm glad you brought it forward. I love a lot of the suggestions that are in it with, especially from the provincial part of it there with how they've got them decorated and how they look and everything. But I don't know, I'm really stunned at the fact that we're not being able, we spent that money on this Flexscape. We're not gonna be able to utilize it unless we spend all kinds of money to set up to take away a parking spot for a whole summer so that they can utilize it and expand their space out there. Mama's Place doesn't have the frontage to put even 3 tables. It's not wide enough. We got complaints from people with accessibility problems, people walking in groups, people walking with dogs. I mean, I don't understand. I don't think if they can't utilize a parking space and bowlers can't be moved out like they were going to be, I think it's a moot point. We'll come back with a report and I don't know what it's going to prove or show us, but at the end of the day, to me, it's a lot more complex and difficult and not even close to what I thought we were getting in the last council. My opinions.
One thing I was thinking of too is I would really like we've talked about having a walkabout with council. It'd almost be beneficial to have the walkabout sooner rather than later. Councillor Maybe.
Through you, Madam Mayor. The timing of the report coming back, like you just said, we're on patio season. If we push this report out until the end of May now, is that like, is there a way for these businesses to have a patio now? And if we do push this out further into like May and then, not being able to get a bylaw set up until June or July, are we pretty much taking this patio season off the plate?
The bylaw for creating a patio is already there, right? These were just amendments to try to facilitate standardizing our patios and to provide a way for, like I said, safety and having a standardized look. And I know one of the comments that came back also was, can you give a report on what the railing or the cost would be? It's impossible to know without knowing how large of a patio someone's going to have and what type of materials they want to use, because they're buying them, right, and not the town, they can propose kind of something. And as long as it fits within kind of the script that we're looking for, that fits in, it wouldn't necessarily be opposed because of that. So it's the safety measures that we would still require are covered under the existing bylaw, right? So nothing is stopping anyone from coming forward. It just wouldn't be done by operations. It would limit to what they're able to construct and to do because we don't have anything in place for the certain types of installation. And they would still have a consultation with our operations department or capital works or infrastructure, because when it goes into legal and legislative for the permit, it is distributed to the different departments that need to look into it. So we would still be looking at any permit that came in anyways. It just wouldn't follow this policy.
Anybody else? The motion is to postpone until May. Maybe June, but hopefully May. No, I'm just joking. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously to postpone. Moving on, Essex Heritage Lease Agreement Renewal, needing a mover and a seconder that council approve entering into an agreement with Essex Heritage for the lease space at Essex Railway Station for a 5-year lease commencing April 15th, concluding April 15th, 2029. And we'll go to our Director Morissette for a quick recap.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi, and through you to council. So this is the lease that the town of Essex has been involved in with the Heritage Essex since 1993. So this is a renewal that we're putting forward as their lease agreement was up. So The funding that we do provide comes through the community partnership grant, which has for this year specifically already been approved in principle based on this lease being approved. So pending council's approval tonight, the lease would take place and the funding would continue to come through the community partnership grant on a year to.
Needing a mover and a seconder. Counselor Allard, Deputy Mayor Shepley, all in favor? And that is carried. Community Services National Day of Mourning, April 28th. Needing a mover and a seconder that Community Services report entitled National Day of Mourning be received for information. Needing a mover and a seconder. Counselor Verbeek, Counselor Mady, any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Reports from our youth members. We have one youth council member here today, Lauren Smith. What can you tell us tonight?
I have nothing tonight.
Day of school.
Looking at the calendar, I think exams are like the 24th, so then it should end on Tuesday. I think exams start on a Wednesday.
Okay, great. Thank you. County Council update. Deputy Mayor Shepley.
Madam Mayor, I'm just trying to locate, we at our April 3rd meeting, we had a visit from the, what was the choir? I didn't have the choir name written down. That was choir. The Essex Vocal. Anyways, they were there to sing national anthem for us, so that was great. Mayor Bondi mentioned that the Tom Wright drain updates will be found on the county council's page if you're looking for those. In county, we approved the paramedic patient navigator program. It's something that's been in place for a time now. We're going to continue on with that. It's helping with our code blacks. And beyond that, we had non-union salary grid strategy endorsed by council to move our non-union staff to the P60 grid. Thank you. And that's the county council report.
Deputy Mayor, just further to that, we had a report on County Road 15 and 18 that recommended no changes at this time. I did share that report with council. So anytime anybody hears of an accident, collision, or a safety concern there, please keep us in the loop and we will notify county staff. Another thing, last week, due to the fall meeting that we had with Premier Doug Ford, we had the deputy mayor and I had a tour of Olette emergency room in the mental health unit to see what they're doing in terms of code reds, code blacks, and how they're moving patients out of their emergency rooms faster and triaging them. So it was really insightful, and I do believe that we could potentially getting a handle on code reds, code blacks. The code reds or the code blacks were around 173 minutes in January, no minutes in February, and 4 minutes in March. So January is peak time because of, cold and flu season, but we have definitely all hands on deck, and we're getting a really good relationship working with our hospital partners in Windsor, Essex EMS, and our new chief, Justin Lammers, is doing a lot of out-of-the-box ideas to get us into less code reds, code blacks. So when I have updates on that, I will keep you posted. And our CAO and warden went to that tour as well, and they'll be bringing a report to county council. Correspondence to be received. Looking for a mover and a seconder that all correspondence listed in agenda item 13.1 be received. We're indicated to further share information with the community using suitable methods of communication. Looking for a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Verbeek, supported by Councillor Hammond. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor, and then we can pull any out. You can pull one out. You want to pull one out, Councillor Hammond?
Through you, Mayor. Actually, the first one, 13.1.1, Kitchener Heritage. Also 13.1.3, Lincoln, Township of Lincoln. Also, it's a letter asking for the deadline for Heritage Homes. Registry for Heritage Homes is January 1st, 2025. We're asking for an extension till January 1st, 2030, because there's a deadline for every heritage listing. Every heritage building that you have, that you're trying to get listed needs to be done by the end of the year, and we're trying to get an extension because there's just too many to accommodate. So I'm asking for support as well as receiving on the 13.1 and 13.3.
Hammond has asked us to not only receive, but receive and support, looking for a seconder. Counselor Meady, questions? Counselor McGuire, please.
Counselor Hammond, do you happen to know how many are on our Essex list?
Yes, I believe, through you, Mayor, I believe 22.
Mayor Bondi, yes, to echo Councillor Hammond's statement, there are 22 properties on the Town of Essex Heritage list, so they are not fully designated. It is important to note that in 2 weeks, Council will have a special meeting on Monday, April 29th on the heritage designation process. We will walk Council through what the designation process will look like. We are very confident that we will meet the timeline for the end of the year. Our Municipal Heritage Committee, past and present, has been very diligent, as well as our planning services staff has been very diligent. When identifying properties on the list, they actually meet several of the criteria for designation. We are not like big cities such as Windsor or Kitchener with a huge list, or we're also not on, in the same boat or some boats where the properties on the list don't meet the criteria. So we're in pretty good shape, and we look forward to providing Council with more information in a couple.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, it's great. I had these picked off myself to be able to pull out and support. Heritage properties hold a lot of significance for areas, the cultural identity, historical significance, artistic value, tourism benefits, education. There's lots of reasons for them. And our staff has been extremely diligent, and we were still surprised when we went to list one earlier this year. So spawning a whole bunch of reasons for maybe a special meeting and stuff like that to get everybody on the same page. And other municipalities are going to have this stuff coming at them fastly too. So to support this was not so much for our own neighborhood, but this is supporting it for all of Ontario and the bigger centers that maybe their staff wasn't as diligent as ours, or they just have a lot more properties that they're trying to sift through. So that's why I was really hoping to support this. It's not so much for our neck of the woods, but to help all of our neighboring municipalities in the province.
Further comments on this? Seeing none, all in favor? And that is carried. I just want to point out, Councillor Allard, go ahead.
Point 1.2, endorsement of Bill C-63 to the House of Commons. It speaks about online platforms being responsible for allowing child pornography and being responsible for it.
Councillor Verbeek, do we have direction on where we want to just send a letter back? Okay. Any further questions? Councillor Verbeek?
Through you, Madam Mayor, because I had also flagged this one. This township of Clearwater is asking all municipalities to support Bill C-63 in the House of Commons for all the obvious reasons. It's about child welfare and protecting and, taking steps to prevent predators who are targeting children via the internet. So I would like to also include our MPP Lewis, the MPP Eric Kuzmierczak, MPP Brian Massey, as well as our Prime Minister. And whatever the ministries of the child welfare for the federal government are, that we would like to support, and we hope that they would support Bill C-63.
Any further questions? Seeing none, all in favor? And that is carried. I just want to point out that the Lakeshore Dog Pound Committee meeting minutes are the committee meeting agendas on here. And if any council members or members of the public have questions, email Councillor Brad Allard and he can raise them on our behalf. Correspondence to be received and supported, Ministry for Seniors and Accessibility. Now we will select our 2024 Ontario Senior of the Year Award. We're requesting a nominee. I will pass this over to our clerk, Director Malandrucolo.
Mayor Bondi, through you, we have 5 nominations for the Senior of the Year Award. Teresa Slack, John Rovere, Evelyn Vivi, Tim Catherwood, and Veronica Jameson. Each council member has a ballot in front of them, so if they'd like to choose their nomination, then I'll collect the nominations and announce a winner.
Thank you. If council members want to hand in their ballot, slide it down. Oh, that's okay. Thank you to everybody who nominated a Senior of the Year. We had a lot more nominations this year than before, so that was good to see. And if your senior isn't selected this year, nominate him for next year. Okay, has every council member handed a ballot? How many do you have? We have 5. Any fall on the floor? Oh, hang on, some fell on the floor.
By 6 out of 8 ballots, the winner is Teresa Slack.
Congratulations, Teresa, and CAO Suite will tell us what happens next.
Thank you, Mayor Bonnie. So we'll send the nomination to the province, and what they do is they'll forward a certificate to us, which we receive probably end of May, beginning of June. Once we receive that, we'll have Ms. Slack present at this council meeting to give her recognition.
Looking for a motion that council receives the correspondence from the Ministry of Seniors and Accessibility and that council nominates Teresa Slack as the Town of Essex Senior of the Year for 2024. Moved by Deputy Mayor Shepley, supported by Councillor Allard, all in favor, and that is carried. Essex Fire and Rescue, International Firefighters Day, May 4th, will go to Director Malandrucolo.
Bondi, that the correspondence from the Essex Fire and Rescue Service asking council to consider proclaiming International Firefighters Day in the town of Essex be received or received and supported, and if supported, that council proclaim May 4, 2024 as International Firefighters Day in the town of Essex by adopting the following resolution. Whereas firefighters dedicate their lives to the protection of life and property, and sometimes that dedication is in the form of countless hours volunteered over many years. In others, it is many selfless years working in the industry. In all cases, it risks the ultimate sacrifice of a firefighter's life. And whereas International Firefighters Day, IFFD, is a time where the community can recognize and honor the sacrifices that firefighters make to ensure that their communities and environment are as safe as possible. It is also a day in which current and past firefighters can be thanked for their contributions. And whereas International Firefighters Day is observed each year on the 4th of May, on where we remember the past firefighters who have died while serving our community or dedicated their lives to protecting the safety of all of us, and show our support and appreciation to the firefighters worldwide who continue to protect us so well throughout the year. And whereas hailing from all walks of life, they are our mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, grandparents, neighbors, and friends. They protect us without wanting of recognition or reward. In our time of need, they are there with courage, compassion, and loyalty. They are the essence of the true meaning of community.
Hello, looking for a mover and a seconder that the correspondence from Essex Fire and Rescue Services asking council to consider proclaiming International Firefighters Day in the town of Essex be received or received and supported, and if supported. So I'm looking for direction. Do we want to receive and support? Moved by Counselor McGuire Blaze, supported by Counselor Verbeek. All in favor? And that is carried. Therefore, I, Sherry Bondi, Mayor of the Town of Essex, on behalf of the Town Council and community at large, now call upon all citizens of the Town of Essex and upon this patriotic civic and educational organizations to observe the day of May 4th, 2024 in recognition of patriotic service and dedicated efforts of our fire and emergency services personnel. Thank you. And if you notice on our Town of Essex Facebook, we did a post educating the public about the firefighter green lights. So share that post. And if you see green lights, it could be our volunteer firefighters driving to a call. So safely move over and let them go to where they need to be going. Committee meeting minutes. Looking for a mover and a seconder that the committee meeting minutes listed in agenda item 14, together with any recommendations to council noted therein, be received, approved, and adopted as circulated. We have Festival Committee, Arts Culture, COAN, Finance, Essex BIA with 2 recommendations. One, that Mesbah Quazim be appointed as the treasurer of the Essex Center BIA for the term ending November 15th. And the second, that Andrea Schinkel be appointed as a board member of the Essex Center BIA for a term ending November 15th. And that we accept the resignation of Greg Schinkel and Jelena from the Essex Center BIA. And that council draft a written letter of appreciation and thanks for the commitment. Looking for a mover and a seconder for all that. Counselor McGuire Blaze and Counselor Verbeek. Any questions? All in favor? And that is carried. Okay. Striking Committee. We didn't do that one with us separate, right? Okay, so, recommendation to council. That council appoint Eric Flojanak, Chair of the Appeals Committee, and that council appoint Jessica, Christopher, Chris, and Christopher Cowell as members of the Appeals Committee for the term ending November 15th. Looking for a mover and a seconder for those recommendations. Deputy Mayor Shepley, Counselor Allard, any questions? Seeing none, all in favor, and that is carried. Nothing under financial, no new business was brought to our attention tonight. So we will go to our clerk, Director Malanjukalo, for our notices of motion.
Following notice of motion was first presented at the February 2024 regular council meeting, subsequently deferred at the April 2, 2024 regular council meeting, and is being brought forward this evening for council's consideration. Moved by Councilor Mady, that town administration prepare a comprehensive report that compares watertight manhole covers to standard manhole covers by completing the following. 1, initiating a study. 2, conducting research. And 3, reporting the submissions.
Seconder, Counselor Hammond. Counselor Mady, do you wish to speak to this long-awaited and very important motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And yeah, it seems like forever ago I put this motion forward, and I still believe it's as important today as ever. You know, we saw the effects of some of the climate change, or the increased rainfalls in our area at least, and what they did to our sewer system. And our response to it was having to release some of the untreated or partially treated sewage into our lake, which, you know, hopefully never has to happen again. And one of the ways that we can help by that is by these watertight manhole covers. They prevent contamination, they reduce flooding risks, they minimize orders. There's prevention to our infrastructure that these will help out with too. I'm hoping that they all find in our studies and our reports that will be brought back to us. So I'm really excited about these and the possibility of them helping our infrastructure in the future.
Great motion. Deputy Mayor Shepley.
More of a comment. I just want to thank Councilor Mady for all the work and effort. It was a well-drafted motion, one of the better ones I've read. I'm pretty impressed by all the work you put into it. So kudos to you.
Any further comments on the motion? I think that this will be, I'm really looking forward to it. I think we need to continue working on our flooding mitigation, and this is one piece of the puzzle. All in favor? It's carried unanimously. Director Malanjukalo.
Motion are for presentment only tonight and will be brought forward for council's consideration at the May 6, 2024 regular council meeting. Moved by Councilor Verbeek, that administration be directed to return with a report regarding creating a voluntary list of Town of Essex residents that would like or need the town to check on them at a time of prolonged power outages, severe weather events, or disasters, and whether or not the town should provide such services. Moved by Councillor McGuire Blaze that administration return with a report with recommendations regarding the use of town-owned banners within the municipality of the town of Essex. Moved by Mayor Bondi that council direct administration to prepare a report on information regarding lead pipes in the town of Essex.
We will go to reports from council members, and I guess we'll start with Councillor Garen because I don't remember which side we started at last time.
Want to point out that the Colchester Guardian is back in the water to serve our boaters. Sad note, we'll be losing Jim Oakley as a volunteer on that boat, but I'm sure they'll find adequate replacements. Jim was a valued seaman. He's going to be sorely missed. I also want to point out that they'll be needing more funds, so there's a pasta fundraiser at the Shine Hospitality, 63 King Street, on May the 3rd, I believe, or Friday. Let me check here. Oh, I lost it. No, here it is. 62 King Street on fundraiser, May 3rd, Friday. Be sure to go out and support the Colchester Guardian. Their service is very needed on that lake. Thank you.
And through you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I just want to say that, the businesses along County Road 50 could use your support now. We do have that county problem with the Tom Wright culvert being out. Please don't let that slow you down. Come out and visit all of our wonderful wineries and restaurants along that road. They could use your support more now than ever. Thanks.
I would like to just thank everybody for all the efforts they put in for the solar eclipse we had on the week prior, and Councillor Hammond for his event that he had, and all the EMS and police and town staff that worked hard to prepare and get things ready out there. It was a great turnout, and everything was cordial after and seemed to work out. It was all coming into Essex that all the backups began. Great work, guys.
Okay, I just want to point out that there's still a survey. We're looking for input for the Coan Park master plan, and you've got until April 23rd. And specifically people in, the Amherstburg area, McGregor area, but everywhere, because it's utilized by everybody. So if you want to go take the survey and share your input, it's at talktheburg.ca/Coan. So, and it's easy enough to find. I believe it's on the Amherstburg site as well, but have your say.
Through the chair, tonight I just want to make mention, summer's here, people out cutting the grass. Make sure you're getting the grass shavings on your property, not on the road. Motorcycles find it like ice.
Thank you, the chair. Nothing to report.
I want to thank Councillor Allard for coming out on the weekend. He and I and 8 other volunteers, we walked the whole Wright Road from 20 to Gore and cleaned it up. We got a truck full of garbage. This Friday, I am meeting anybody that wants to clean up on Maidstone. It's more of an advanced level cleanup. No kids, I would say at least under 10, because we're going in the ditch and it's pretty dangerous there. So wear vests. I will have bags and PPE. So watch for the Bondi truck. It'll be at Tim Hortons. So that is this Friday at 4. And then on April 28th, we can park at Classy Caps, and we're going to clean Ferris going north. So the bag a day is kind of snowballing into a road week. And please come out to our community cleanups. We have those posted on our website. And last but not least, the town of Essex is engaging in a garbage collection survey. So share your feedback on our social media. You can find it, and also on our website. We're talking about levels of service. So every couple years we have to tender our garbage contract. So we're trying to get your feedback on whether you want to go weekly, or bi-weekly and the kind of the pros and cons in that, and more information will follow on that. So with that being said, bylaw 2319 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the April 2nd regular meeting of council be read a third and finally passed on April 15th. Mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Guerin, supported by Councillor Hammond. All in favor? That is carried. Bylaws requiring a first, second, and third final reading. Bylaw 2318 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2215, being a bylaw to establish and appoint Town of Essex, Essex boards and committees for the 2022-2026 term of council. That bylaw 2318 be read a first, second, third time finally passed April 15th. Moved by Deputy Mayor Shepley, supported by Councillor Allard. All in favor? And that is carried. Bylaw 2322 being a bylaw to designate community safety zones within the corporation of the Town of Essex. Needing a mover and a seconder. For that, be read a first, second, third, finally passed. Councillor Guerin, Councillor Mady, all in favor, and that is carried. Bylaw 2323 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the April 15th, 2024 regular meeting of council. Deputy Mayor Shepley, Councillor Verbeek, all in favor, and that is carried. And if you're watching tonight, we had two previous special council meetings, so you can watch those. One on the report of our integrity commissioner. In 2023, we had no complaints from our integrity commissioner, so that is a good thing. And we also had an open, a public open house on short-term rentals and zoning. So check those out if you're so interested. Bylaw, motion to adjourn. Councillor Guerin, Councillor Allard, all in favor. And if council can meet us in the hall, we'll take a group picture.